The Law of RaSession100, November 29, 1982.
100.0 RA, I am Ra. I greet you, my friends, in the love and in the light of the one infinite Creator. We communicate now.
100.1 Questioner. Could you first please give me the condition of the instrument?
I am Ra. It is as previously stated with the exception of the vital energy distortion which leans more toward strength/weakness than the last asking.
100.2 Questioner. Thank you. The instrument asks if there is some problem with the swirling waters, since she feels very dizzy after each application. Could Ra comment on that, please?
I am Ra. Yes.
100.3 Questioner. Would Ra please comment?
I am Ra. As has been previously noted, the instrument has the propensity for attempting to exceed its limits. If one considers the metaphysical or time/space aspect of an incarnation, this is a fortunate and efficient use of catalyst as the will is constantly being strengthened and, further, if the limitations are exceeded in the service of others, the polarization is also most efficient. However, we perceive the query to speak to the space/time portion of incarnational experience, and in that framework would again ask the instrument to consider the value of martyrdom. The instrument may examine its range of reactions to the swirling waters. It will discover a correlation between it and other activity. When the so-called aerobic exercise is pursued, no less than 3 of your hours, and preferably 5 of your hours, should pass betwixt it and the swirling waters. When the walking has been accomplished a period of no less than, we believe, 40 of your minutes must needs transpire before the swirling waters, and preferably twice that amount of your space/time. It is true that some greeting has encouraged the dizziness felt by the instrument. However, its source is largely the determination of the instrument to remain immersed in the swirling waters past the period of space/time it may abide therein without exceeding its physical limits.
100.4 Questioner. Thank you. I feel obligated to ask the next, somewhat transient question because of a request from Colonel Stevens. I also, for my own edification, would like to better understand the effect of the quarantine and first discharge. Would Ra comment on the purpose of the so-called Pleiades contact in Switzerland with Billy Meier, an entity known as Scepter, and others?
I am Ra. It is not our practice to judge the value of a contact of metaphysical origin. We cannot confirm the contact referred to by the questioner as pure confederation contact. However, we might suggest that there is some positive material within the recorded transcript of converse during this contact. As we have spoken previously to the various characteristics of so-called mixed contact, we shall not repeat, but note that all communication is of the one infinite Creator in its infinite distortions.
100.5 Questioner. Is it all right for Colonel Stevens to receive the information that Ra just gave to us?
I am Ra. We find this information to be confirmation of already perceived ideas. Therefore, permission is freely given.
100.6 Questioner. Thank you. To continue with the tarot, I would like to make the additional observation with respect to card 6 that the male's arms being crossed. If the female to his right pulls on his left hand, it would can't, in effect, turn him, his entire body, toward the right, and the same is true for the female on the left. Pulling on his right hand, she will turn his entire body to her side, which is my interpretation of what's meant by the tangle of the arms. That the transformation occurs by pull, which attempts to turn the entity toward the left or the right hand path. Would Ra comment on that observation?
I am Ra. We shall. The concept of the pull towards mental polarity may well be examined in the light of what the student has already accreted concerning the nature of the conscious, exemplified by the male, and the unconscious, exemplified by the female. Indeed, both the prostituted and the virginal of deep mind invite and await the reaching. In this image of transformation of mind, then, each of the females points the way it would go, but is not able to move, nor are the two female entities striving to do so. They are at rest. The conscious entity holds both and will turn itself one way or the other, or, potentially, backwards and forwards, rocking first one way then the other and not achieving the transformation. In order for the transformation of mind to occur, one principle governing the use of the deep mind must be abandoned. It is to be noted that the triangular shape formed by the shoulders and crossed elbows of consciousness is a shape to be associated with transformation. Indeed, you may see this shape echoed twice more in the image, each echo having its own riches to add to the impact of this complex of concepts.
100.7 Questioner. Thank you. We will probably return to this card next session for more of an observation after we study Ra's comments. To conserve and efficiently use the time at this time, I will make some notes with respect to card 7. First, the veil between the conscious and the unconscious mind has been removed. The veil is the curtain, I would assume, at the top which is lifted. Even though this veil has been removed, perception of intelligent infinity is still distorted according to the seeker's beliefs and means of seeking. Would Ra comment on that?
I am Ra. As one observes the veil of the image of the great way of mind, it may be helpful to ideate using the framework of environment. The great way of mind, body, or spirit is intended to limn the milieu within which the work of mind, body, or spirit shall be placed. Thusly, the veil is shown both somewhat lifted and still present, since the work of mind and its transformation involves progressive lifting of the great veil betwixt conscious and deep minds. The complete success of this attempt is not properly a portion of third density work and, more especially, third density mental processes.
100.8 Questioner. The fact that the veil is raised higher on the right-hand side than on the left indicates to me that the adept choosing the positive polarity will have greater success in penetrating the veil. Would Ra comment?
I am Ra. This is a true statement if it is realized that the questioner speaks of potential success. Indeed, your third density experience is distorted or skewed so that the positive orientation has more aid than the so-called negative.
100.9 Questioner. It would also seem to me that, since Ra stated in the last session, the limit of the viewpoint is the source of all distortions, that the very nature of the service to self-distortions that create the left-hand path are a function of the veil, and therefore are dependent, you might say, to some degree, on at least a partial continued veiling. Does this make any sense?
I am Ra. There is the thread of logic in what you suppose. The polarities are both dependent upon a limited viewpoint. However, the negative polarity depends more heavily upon the illusory separation betwixt the self and all other mind/body/spirit complexes. The positive polarity attempts to see through the illusion to the creator in each mind/body/spirit complex, but for the greater part is concerned with behaviors and thoughts directed towards other selves in order to be of service. This attitude in itself is full of the stuff of your third density illusion.
100.10 Questioner. The crown of 3 stars, we are guessing, indicates mastery and balancing of the mind, body, and spirit. Is this in any way correct?
I am Ra. This device is astrological in origin and the interpretation given somewhat confusing. We deal, in this image, with the environment of mind. It is perhaps appropriate to release the starry crown from its stricture.
100.11 Questioner. The entities, the small black or russet and white entities have been now changed so that they appear to be sphinxes, which we are assuming mean that the catalyst has been mastered. I'm also assuming that they act as the power that moves the chariot depicted here, so as this mastery enables the mind in its transformation to become mobile, unlike it was prior to this mastery, locked within the illusion. Would Ra comment on that?
I am Ra. Firstly, we ask that the student consider the Great Way not as the culmination of a series of 7 activities or functions, but as a far more clearly delineated image of the environment within which the mind, body, or spirit shall function. Therefore, the culturally determined creatures called sphinxes do not indicate mastery over catalyst. The second supposition, that of placing the creatures as the movers of the chariot of mind, has far more virtue. You may connote the concept of time to the image of the sphinx. The mental and mental/emotional complex ripens and moves and is transformed in time.
100.12 Questioner. There is the 45-minute signal. Does Ra suggest a termination of this session, taking into consideration the instrument's condition and all the other conditions that we have placed on this?
I am Ra. Information pertinent to this query has been previously covered. The choice of termination time, as you call it, is solely that of the questioner until the point at which we perceive the instrument beginning to use its vital resources due to the absence of transferred or native physical energy. The instrument remains open, as always.
100.13 Questioner. In that case, I will ask only one more question, and that will be having to do with the sword and the scepter. It would seem that the sword would be the power of the negative adept, indicating control over other selves, and the scepter would indicate the power of the positive adept with unity in mind, body, and spirit. However, they seem to be in opposite hands than I would have guessed. Would Ra comment on that?
I am Ra. These symbols are astrological in origin. The shapes, therefore, may be released from their stricture. We may note that there is an overriding spiritual environment and protection for the environment of the mind. We may further note that the negatively polarized adept will attempt to fashion that covenant for its own use, whereas the positively polarized entity may hold forth that which is exemplified by the astrological sword, that is, light and truth.
100.14 Questioner. Would there be two more appropriate objects or symbols to have the entity in card 7 holding in its hands, other than the ones shown?
I am Ra. We leave this consideration to you, O student, and shall comment upon any observation which you may make.
100.15 Questioner. I will save that for next session, and I will ask if there is anything we can do to make the instrument more comfortable or improve the contact.
I am Ra. All is well. The appurtenances are most conscientiously placed. We thank this diligent group. There is much greater distortion towards harmony at this asking, and we join you in praise and thanksgiving. This is always the greatest boon to improvement of the contact, for it is the harmony of the group which supports this contact. I am Ra. I leave you in the love and the light of the One. Go forth, therefore, rejoicing in the power and in the peace of the One Infinite Creator. Adonai.